Hello students, how are you all? Hope all of you are safe and sound at home and studying as well. Today I am going to start the explanation of a new chapter. The name of the chapter is Gravitation. Let us first start with the definition of gravitation. Gravitation is the force of attraction between two objects in the universe. That means all the objects in our universe, they attract each other, and this attractive force between the particles of our universe is known as gravitation. Gravitation can be taken as the force of attraction between the earth and any object on it. We can see it in the following examples. Here, if a body is dropped from a certain height, it falls downwards due to Earth's gravity. So, gravity is the force of attraction between the Earth and any object on it. Same way, if we throw a certain thing in the upward direction, after reaching a certain height, it returns back to the Earth due to the Earth's gravitational pull. Gravitation can also be considered as the attractive force between two objects in outer space, like the attraction between Earth and the Moon, the attraction between the Sun and the planet, and all these things. So this is gravitation. In order to understand gravitation and the motion caused by gravitation, we need to know a special type of force called centripetal force. When you move an object in a circular path, its direction changes at every point. The force which keeps the body in circular path acts towards the center of the circle. This force is called centripetal force. Let us do a very simple experiment. Let us tie a stone with a thread and move it above our head. We will see that the stone moves in a circular path. Why the stone is moving in a circular path? Because the thread does not allow the stone to move out in a straight line. If the thread breaks in any case, then the stone will move out in a straight line, and that straight line will be a tangent to the circular path. Now the question is, what is a tangent? Tangent is a line which touches a circle at only one point. Let us move on to our next topic, that is universal law of gravitation. According to this law, the force of attraction between two particles or bodies in our universe is directly proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between these two particles. We must always remember that distances must be calculated from the center of the objects. And the part where it says that force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the two particles is also known as inverse square rule. Now, let us take two bodies A and B of masses m1 and m2. Let the distance between m1 and m2, or the body A and B, be r. So, according to the law of gravitation, the force of attraction F, or the force of gravitation between the two bodies, will be directly proportional to number 1, product of their masses. That means F proportional to m1 into m2. And by second one, it is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the two bodies. This is also known as inverse square rule. So F proportional to 1 by r square. If I combine these two equations, we get F proportional to m1, m2 by r square. Now, in order to remove this proportionality sign, we have to take a constant. This constant is g, and this g is known as universal gravitational constant. As the name suggests, the value of g remains constant all throughout the universe. There are a few things we need to learn about universal gravitational constant. From this equation, we can find the value of universal gravitational constant, and its value is 6.67 into 10 to the power minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. The value of g does not depend on the medium between the two bodies. Wherever the bodies are, the distance between them has to be considered, their masses had to be considered, but whatever medium is in between them, that does not affect the value of g. The value of g is the same throughout the universe, and hence the name. That means it is called universal gravitational constant since its value remains constant all throughout the universe. But we need to be very careful about using capital G and small g. Capital G represents universal gravitational constant, whereas small g represents acceleration due to gravity, and we should always use whichever is required. The SI unit of capital G is Newton meter square per kg square. So these are some of the important things that we should know about the universal gravitational constant. Let us move on to the next topic, Kepler's laws of planetary motion. Kepler formulated 3 laws which explains the motion of a planet around the sun. The first one is known as the law of orbits. It states that every planet moves around the sun in elliptical orbit with the sun at one of its foci. Now, what is an elliptical orbit? Ellipsis is a geometrical figure which looks like this. It is not a circle and hence it does not have a center. So, in case of an ellipse, we consider these 2 points F1 and F2 as the foci, and it is considered by Kepler that planets will move around the sun in elliptical orbit with the sun at either F1 or at F2. Kepler's second law, that is the law of areas, it states that the line joining the planet to the sun sweeps equal areas in equal intervals of time. Let us consider an elliptical orbit around which a planet moves. Let us consider that a planet moves from C to D and again it moves from A to B. Okay? Let us consider that the times taken by the planet in moving from C to D is equal to the time taken by the same planet to move from A to B. So, if I draw these lines connecting the planet to the sun, I get an area here as well as I get an area here. So, according to Kepler, this area will be equal to this area. That means the planet will sweep, or the line joining the planet to the sun will sweep, or it will cover same areas in equal intervals of time. Here intervals of time are same since it takes the same time while moving from A to B and while moving from C to D. Kepler's third law is also known as law of periods. It states that the square of time period of revolution of a planet around the sun is directly proportional to the cube of the mean distance of a planet from the sun. Now, square of time period, or what is a time period? Time period is the time taken by the planet to complete one round on the elliptical orbit around the sun. That means the time taken by the planet to move from C and again return back to C. This is the time period. It is denoted by capital T. So the first thing is square of time period. That means T square. It is directly proportional to the mean distance. Now, since an elliptical orbit does not have any center, what we will do? We will draw as many lines as possible from the sun to the elliptical orbit and we'll find a mean of it. That is why it is called the mean distance. The mean distance is denoted by r. So, according to the law of periods, T square directly proportional to r cube. That is, T square by r cube is constant. Let us move on to the last topic of the day. That is, why universal law of gravitation is important. It is important because it helps us understand the following things. First, the force that binds us to the earth. That means why we are always on the surface of the earth. We can't simply jump off and away from the earth because of the force of attraction between us and the earth. It also helps us to explain the motion of the moon around the earth, and this is because this motion of moon is because of the force of attraction between the earth and that of the moon. Planets move around the sun in elliptical orbits, but they never collide with one another. Why? This can also be explained with the help of universal law of gravitation. Universal law of gravitation helps us understand the force of attraction between two bodies. This force of attraction helps the planets to move around the sun in unique orbits so that they never collide with one another. And the last one is tides due to the moon and the sun. What are tides? Tides are the rising of seawater due to the gravitational force of the moon and the sun. So these are the following things. These are the things that we can understand or with the help of universal law of gravitation. This is the end of today's explanation. I hope all of you have understood the explained topics. Next week, I will be back again with the explanation of few more topics from the chapter Gravitation. Until then, take care, stay safe, and study hard.